Never underestimate quiet strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't shout or demand to be seen, but it holds everything together when things start to fall apart. Quiet strength is the person who doesn't have to prove anything because they already know what they're capable of. It's not loud, not flashy, not dressed in medals or decorated by applause. It's the woman who works long hours without complaint, the man who shows up when it matters, the one who listens more than they speak, but somehow commands the room when they finally do. Quiet strength is often overlooked because it doesn't fit the picture we're taught to admire. We celebrate the bold, the outspoken, the visible victories. We forget that behind every headline is someone who made things possible quietly, someone whose patience, focus, and endurance held the whole operation steady. The clerk who kept records straight under pressure. The technician who fixed the system at 2 a.m. The nurse who stayed an extra shift because someone needed care. These people rarely make noise about what they do, yet they are the backbone of every success story. There's power in restraint. There's discipline in silence. To stay calm when chaos erupts, to keep composure when others lose theirs, that's quiet strength. It's a kind of courage that doesn't look like bravery from the outside. It doesn't come with grand gestures or dramatic moments. It's built in small, steady acts. Choosing to stay kind when it's easier to lash out. Holding on to integrity when shortcuts tempt. Showing up again after failure, not because anyone asked, but because it's the right thing to do. Quiet strength grows from experience. People who have lived through storms don't need to announce their endurance. They've already tested their limits in silence. They've learned that shouting isn't the same as leading. They've learned that control comes not from force, but from understanding. When everyone else is panicking, they take a breath. When everyone is talking, they listen. And because they listen, they see more. They pick up on what others miss. That's why quiet strength often surprises people, because it's working all along, quietly shaping outcomes before anyone realizes it. Quiet strength doesn't mean weakness or passivity. It's not submission. It's a choice to conserve energy for what truly matters. It's self-assuredness rooted in purpose. It's the understanding that validation doesn't define worth. Many confuse noise with confidence, but real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. The strongest people don't waste energy proving they're strong. They already know. That's why they can focus their power with precision, not scattered in arguments, but channeled where it counts. You see this in leaders who don't raise their voices yet command respect. You see it in parents who work quietly for their families, in soldiers who do their duty without seeking credit, in colleagues who steady the team without asking for praise. They're often invisible until something goes wrong, and then everyone realizes they were the anchor. That's quiet strength at work. Invisible when everything's fine, invaluable when things fall apart. It's also deeply connected to humility. To be quietly strong is to understand that life isn't a performance. It's not about being seen. It's about being effective. People with quiet strength don't crave attention because they've made peace with themselves. They don't need to win every argument. They don't need to dominate every space. Their confidence comes from self-awareness, from knowing who they are and what they stand for. And that kind of peace is rare because it's earned, not given. Quiet strength is built over time, through moments that test patience and resolve. It grows in solitude, in failure, in times when no one is watching. It's forged when you pick yourself up again and again without anyone noticing. It's shaped by restraint, the decision to act with purpose, not reaction. And when it finally reveals itself, it doesn't need an announcement. People just feel it. There's a certain calm that radiates from people with quiet strength. It's not the calm of indifference, but the calm of conviction. They know storms pass. They know panic solves nothing. They know words have weight, so they choose them carefully. They move with intention. They carry others through uncertainty simply by being present. They don't need to say, "I've got this." Their presence says it for them. Quiet strength changes people. It inspires without instruction. It shows others that you don't have to be loud to make a difference. You don't have to stand in the spotlight to stand for something. You can lead from any position, in any room, in any role. You can be the one who keeps everything steady when everything else starts shaking. You can be the calm in the noise, the steady heartbeat in the rush. That's what quiet strength really is, the silent force that keeps the world moving forward when no one's looking. Every role has unseen depth. It's easy to look at someone's title or uniform and think you know who they are or what they do. A clerk, a janitor, a driver, an assistant, words that seem small, jobs that seem ordinary. But those words never tell the full story. Behind every simple label, there's a person with layers, experiences, and skills that stretch far beyond what's written on their name tag. Every role, no matter how modest it looks from the outside, carries weight that isn't immediately visible. People often judge worth by visibility. The ones in charge get credit. The ones behind the scenes are forgotten. But the truth is, no system, no organization, no mission works without those unseen hands. The report doesn't get filed unless someone organizes it. The machine doesn't run unless someone maintains it. The meeting doesn't happen unless someone sets it up. These details might seem small, but together they make the difference between success and failure. The depth of a role isn't always in its title. It's in the effort, precision, and care a person brings to it. The depth also lies in perspective. Someone who appears to be doing a simple job might be observing more than anyone else. The security guard who watches faces all day knows more about human behavior than most executives. The nurse's aide who helps patients dress sees things doctors might miss. The assistant who manages schedules learns to predict problems before they happen. These people develop instincts, awareness, and judgment through experience, skills that can't be listed in a job description but are critical to everything running smoothly. When we fail to look deeper, we miss potential. A person's title doesn't define their capability. Sometimes the person we think is at the bottom of the hierarchy is the one holding everything up. The unseen depth in their role is what keeps things moving, and often, it's that depth that reveals leadership, resilience, and wisdom. The ones who know how to keep calm under pressure, who remember what others forget, who notice what others overlook. They are the ones who make quiet impact. They are the ones who turn ordinary work into something remarkable. Every role carries a story of growth. The person doing repetitive tasks has learned patience. The one dealing with difficult people has learned emotional control. The one managing chaos every day has learned balance. These lessons accumulate in silence. They shape character and build insight. Over time, people in so-called simple roles often develop a deeper understanding of teamwork, trust, and purpose than those constantly chasing titles. Because when your value isn't tied to recognition, you learn to focus on the work itself, on doing it right, not just being seen doing it. There's also creativity in every role, even those that seem routine. The cleaner who figures out a faster way to sanitize a room. The driver who maps a route that saves time and fuel. The clerk who reorganizes records so everyone can find what they need faster. Innovation doesn't always happen in boardrooms. It happens quietly, in corners where people pay attention to details no one else sees. Every improvement, every small solution adds depth to the role and proves that intelligence isn't limited by position. The unseen depth of a role often shows up in moments of crisis. When systems break down, when leaders are unavailable, it's the people who know the ground-level work who step in and fix things. They don't panic because they understand how everything connects. Their practical knowledge, built through repetition and care, becomes the foundation that others rely on. In those moments, the hierarchy disappears. What remains is competence, experience, and quiet authority, qualities earned through years of doing the work with commitment. Depth is also emotional. Every role demands more than technical skill. It requires empathy, endurance, and adaptability. The receptionist who stays polite after being shouted at. The factory worker who keeps focus through exhaustion. The teacher's aide who comforts a child while managing 20 others. These moments may seem minor, but they reveal emotional intelligence that no manual can teach. They show the depth of human character in action, unseen, unmeasured, but profoundly real. We often talk about leadership as if it starts at the top, But leadership is rooted in understanding people. Those who work at the ground level understand people best. They see frustration, fatigue, effort, and perseverance up close. They know what motivates, what breaks, what heals. Their empathy gives them the power to connect, and that connection is the essence of real leadership. When they eventually rise, they carry with them that grounded awareness. Their decisions come from a place of truth, not theory. Every role has layers that outsiders rarely notice. The surface might show a title, but beneath it lies a network of choices, challenges, and invisible victories. To see that depth requires respect, the kind that doesn't depend on rank or pay scale. It's about recognizing that value exists everywhere, that excellence can live in any position. When we start to see people that way, we stop asking, "What do you do?" and start asking, "What do you bring?" Because every role, no matter how small it looks, carries a story, a skill set, and a strength that the world too often overlooks. Recognition often comes late, but it matters. The world moves fast, and most of the time, it only stops to notice results, not effort. The long nights, the unseen labor, the quiet sacrifices rarely make it into the picture of success. People work in silence for years, building something piece by piece, holding things together while others move ahead. They give their best without expecting applause, telling themselves that the work itself is the reward. But even the strongest people, the most humble workers, feel the need to be seen eventually. Because recognition isn't about ego, it's about being reminded that what you do matters. Late recognition often carries more weight than instant praise. When someone finally sees your effort after years of silence, it feels real. It's not about flattery or formality. It's acknowledgement rooted in truth. It means someone finally looked beyond the surface and understood what it took. The persistence, the resilience, the refusal to give up when it would have been easier to quit. That moment, however delayed, validates the struggle. It says, "You weren't invisible after all." In every field, there are people who quietly carry the load while others get the spotlight. The assistant who prepares the groundwork for every big idea. The mechanic who ensures the vehicle runs safely before the journey begins. The medic who stays awake through the night so others can rest. Their efforts are absorbed into the system, often without a name attached. But when recognition does come, when the curtain finally lifts and their names are spoken aloud, it doesn't just honor them. It reminds everyone watching that greatness isn't always loud or immediate. Recognition that comes late teaches patience. It tests a person's faith in their own purpose. When you keep giving your best without applause, you learn to separate validation from motivation. You start to understand that doing good work is not about attention, but about integrity. You work not because people are watching, but because it's who you are. Yet when that recognition finally arrives, it brings a quiet kind of joy, not the thrill of being praised, but the relief of being understood. It confirms that your way of doing things, consistent, steady, honest, was right all along. Sometimes late recognition transforms an entire environment. When a leader finally sees the contributions of someone who's been overlooked, it changes how others are valued. It shifts the culture from noise to substance. People start paying attention to the ones who make things happen quietly. They begin to notice the depth in what used to be ignored. A single moment of recognition can ripple outward, inspiring others to keep going even when no one seems to care. The wait for recognition, though painful, often builds character. It shapes endurance and humility. It teaches the difference between being seen and being remembered. Many of the most respected figures in history were unrecognized in their time. They faced doubt, dismissal, even ridicule. But they kept working because their purpose wasn't tied to approval. And when their contributions were finally acknowledged, sometimes years or decades later, their impact was clearer, stronger, and undeniable. The delay didn't diminish their worth, it deepened it. In daily life, delayed recognition shows up in small but powerful ways. A teacher who finds out years later that a student's life changed because of one conversation. A worker who retires and finally hears from colleagues how much they were appreciated. A parent whose sacrifices are recognized only when their children grow old enough to understand. These moments don't erase the years of quiet labor, but they give it meaning. They reveal that nothing was wasted, that effort, even unacknowledged, leaves a mark. There's also a deeper truth behind late recognition. Sometimes people don't notice because they're not ready to see. It takes maturity, awareness, and humility to recognize someone else's quiet excellence. It's easier to celebrate what's visible than to understand what's essential. But when recognition finally happens, it often comes from someone who's grown, someone who has learned what true contribution looks like. That's why late recognition can feel more honest. It comes from clarity, not convenience. When recognition arrives late, it also reminds us of the quiet dignity of perseverance. It proves that consistency has power, that showing up, doing the work, and staying committed eventually gets noticed. The world may take its time, but it catches up, and when it does, it looks back in awe at the person who never stopped, who kept giving their best when no one was watching. Recognition matters because people matter. Being seen is not vanity. It's validation of effort, humanity, and purpose. When someone's contribution is finally acknowledged, it lights something in others. The belief that patience is worth it, that substance will always outlast spectacle. Recognition often comes late, but when it does, it reminds everyone that true value doesn't fade with time. It waits quietly, proving itself in every act, until the world is finally ready to notice. True service speaks without titles. It doesn't need ranks, badges, or grand introductions to prove its worth. You can spot it in the way someone steps forward when something needs to be done, not because they have to, but because they care. It's in the quiet instinct to take responsibility, to protect, to guide, to serve without expecting acknowledgement. Titles can be given, but service is chosen. It's an attitude, a mindset, a reflection of character that shows up when no one's keeping score. People often confuse leadership with authority, but the two aren't the same. Authority comes from position, leadership comes from service. The truest leaders are often those who start at the bottom and never forget what it feels like to be there. They remember the work others overlook, the effort that goes unseen. That's why they lead with empathy instead of ego. They don't need a title to influence people. Their presence alone creates trust. True service builds that kind of influence, the kind that isn't forced but earned through consistency, humility, and integrity. Service is measured not by what someone gains, but by what they give. It's not limited to uniforms or professions. It's in every space. The coworker who stays late to help finish a project, the neighbor who checks in on the elderly next door, the mentor who shares knowledge freely without expecting credit. These acts of service rarely make headlines, but they are the fabric of every community, every team, every family. Without them, everything would slowly fall apart. True service has no need for recognition because it's not about image. It's about purpose. When someone serves out of genuine care, they don't ask who's watching or whether it's fair. They do it because something inside them knows that the right thing has to be done. That kind of service is powerful because it's pure. It's free from the noise of ego and the distraction of reward. It stands on its own. There's also humility in true service, a kind of quiet confidence that doesn't seek validation. The person serving knows their role may never be celebrated, but they do it anyway because their standard comes from within, not from applause. They understand that service is not a performance, but a commitment. It's not always glamorous. In fact, it's often tiring, repetitive, and thankless. But through it, character is built. Every small act of service becomes a form of discipline, shaping who a person becomes. In times of crisis, the difference between title and service becomes clear. When things fall apart, people look not to the loudest voice, but to the one who acts. The one who stays calm, organizes, supports others. That's when titles fade and true servants step up. They don't wait for permission or direction. They move because they understand what needs to be done. Their motivation isn't position, it's responsibility. They lead through action, not announcement. Service rooted in authenticity creates connection. It reminds people that they matter, that they're seen and supported. A small act, listening when someone is struggling, lending a hand without being asked, offering guidance when it's needed, can change how someone feels about their place in the world. True service uplifts others not by making them dependent, but by helping them believe in themselves. It's the kind of service that multiplies strength instead of showcasing it. Titles can change overnight, but service endures. When people lose positions, retire, or move on, what remains is how they treated others. The respect they built doesn't come from their nameplate, but from the way they made people feel. Those who serve with honesty and heart leave behind something deeper than achievements. They leave trust. That trust is the invisible legacy of true service, passed quietly from one person to another through gratitude and memory. True service also demands courage. It means putting others first even when it's inconvenient. It means speaking up for what's right, even when silence would be safer. It means doing the work no one wants to do because someone has to. This kind of courage isn't loud or dramatic. It's steady and selfless. It comes from a belief that the collective good outweighs personal comfort. That's what separates true service from performance. Intention. Sometimes, people spend their whole lives chasing titles, thinking that authority will bring respect. But respect earned through service is stronger than any title could offer. Titles can open doors, but service builds bridges. Titles can command obedience, but service earns loyalty. Titles can fade, but the impact of service remains in the lives touched and the examples set. In every organization, every community, and every home, there are people who hold no official position but keep everything functioning. They guide, protect, support, and sustain without the spotlight. They don't need anyone to call them leaders. They already are. True service speaks without titles because it doesn't need words to prove its worth. It's written in actions, carried in humility, and remembered long after the applause stops. Ordinary people carry extraordinary stories. Most of them never make the news, never go viral, never get written into history books, but they live lives filled with quiet moments of courage, loss, love, and survival that could fill entire volumes. You pass them every day, in grocery store lines, on buses, in offices, and never guess what they've been through. They don't wear their stories on their faces. They move through the world like everyone else, holding memories that changed them, carrying lessons shaped by years of living unseen. What looks ordinary from the outside is often remarkable once you take the time to look closer. Every person carries a collection of moments that reveal who they are. Some of those moments never get spoken out loud. They live between breaths, in decisions made under pressure, in kindness offered when no one noticed, in heartbreak endured quietly. The mother who works 2 jobs but still shows up for her kids' school plays. The young man who takes care of his sick parent without telling anyone. The elderly veteran who still wakes up before dawn out of habit and discipline. These are stories of endurance, sacrifice, and integrity that rarely get told but define the soul of humanity more than any headline. Ordinary people become extraordinary not because they plan to, but because life pushes them into moments that test who they are. They rise to challenges that no one else sees. They keep going when it would have been easier to give up. They adapt, improvise, and endure, not for recognition, but because something inside them refuses to quit. Their resilience is quiet but fierce, built over years of small victories and silent struggles. And sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones told through action, not words. Every community is built on these hidden stories. The teacher who believes in a student everyone else gave up on. The factory worker who mentors younger coworkers and keeps them out of trouble. The immigrant who learns a new language, builds a new life, and sends money home every month without complaint. These are the foundations of progress and compassion, people doing their best, day after day, without fanfare. The world keeps turning because of them, even though history rarely pauses to say their names. Extraordinary stories don't always begin with grand dreams. Often, they start with survival, someone trying to make things a little better than they were yesterday. They come from loss and rebuilding, from finding joy in small victories. They come from people who never thought of themselves as heroes, but acted heroically anyway. When disaster strikes, it's the ordinary person who pulls someone out of danger, who organizes supplies, who comforts the scared. In those moments, the lines between ordinary and extraordinary disappear. What remains is raw humanity, brave, flawed, and real. The beauty of these stories is that they remind us everyone has depth. You can't measure someone's worth by their title, income, or appearance. Behind every calm smile might be years of struggle. Behind every steady routine might be a battle fought quietly every day. When we take time to listen, to ask, to really see people, we uncover the richness of human experience hiding in plain sight. That's what makes the ordinary extraordinary. Not perfection, but persistence. Ordinary people also carry wisdom that can't be taught in classrooms. It's learned through living, through mistakes, heartbreak, and survival. They know what it means to lose and still find reasons to keep going. They understand the cost of hard choices, the weight of responsibility, the strength it takes to forgive. Their stories might not be glamorous, but they hold truths that everyone can learn from. They remind us that greatness is not about standing above others, but about standing firm when it counts. Sometimes the most extraordinary part of an ordinary person's story is their ability to stay kind, to keep their heart open after being hurt, to choose compassion when life has given them every reason to be bitter. That takes more courage than most people realize. It's easy to be good when life is good. It's extraordinary to stay good when life isn't. Every act of patience, every small gesture of decency, every time someone chooses love over anger, those are the moments that define character. If you ask people about their lives, most will say they've done nothing special. But if you listen closely, you'll hear echoes of courage in their words. You'll hear about the time they stood up for someone else, or rebuilt from nothing, or found hope in the middle of chaos. Those are the stories worth telling, the ones that show that being ordinary doesn't mean being unremarkable. It means being human in all its raw, imperfect, and resilient beauty. Ordinary people carry extraordinary stories, not because of what they have, but because of what they've lived. Each scar, each decision, each moment of grace adds to a story that deserves to be heard. When we start to recognize the greatness in everyday lives, we begin to understand that history isn't just written by the famous. It's built quietly, moment by moment, by people who simply refuse to stop trying. Respect is earned through actions, not ranks. It's one of those truths that never changes, no matter how high someone climbs or how much power they hold. Titles can command obedience, but only integrity earns genuine respect. People might follow authority because they have to, but they follow character because they want to. That's the difference between influence that lasts and authority that fades. Real respect doesn't come from what's written on a badge or a nameplate. It comes from how someone carries themselves, treats others, and shows up when it matters most. Actions reveal who a person really is. It's easy to talk about values, loyalty, and teamwork, but those words mean nothing without behavior to back them up. You can tell who deserves respect by watching what they do when no one's watching. Do they take responsibility when things go wrong? Or do they pass the blame? Do they treat people with kindness regardless of position? Do they stay honest, even when it costs them something? These small choices are what build or destroy respect over time. It's not earned through speeches or self-promotion, but through consistency, doing the right thing again and again until people can trust it. Respect is also about fairness. People remember how they're treated, especially in moments of vulnerability. A leader who listens instead of dismissing, who gives credit instead of taking it, who admits mistakes instead of hiding them, that's someone who earns respect. Rank might give someone power over others, but fairness gives them influence. When people feel seen, heard, and valued, they give their best. They don't work out of fear, they work out of pride. And that difference changes everything. Many people mistake fear for respect. They think if others don't question them, they've succeeded. But fear is fragile. It breaks the moment power shifts. Respect, on the other hand, survives even when positions change. The worker who once took orders might later lead, and the one who led might one day serve again. In that moment, What remains is how they treated each other. That's why respect built on action lasts. It's grounded in humanity, not hierarchy. Everyday interactions reveal where respect truly lies. The person who greets the janitor with the same warmth as the CEO. The supervisor who takes time to explain instead of command. The team member who stays late to help others finish. None of these acts come with titles, but they speak volumes. Respect flows naturally toward people who give it freely. It's reciprocal. Those who treat others with dignity invite it back in return. The people who understand this don't need to demand respect. It finds them. In workplaces, families, or any community, respect becomes the foundation of trust. When people trust that you'll do what you say, that you'll treat them fairly, that you won't use power against them, they'll stand with you. That's how unity is built, not through rules or ranks, but through reliability. People can disagree and still respect each other when they know the other person's intentions are genuine. Respect doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty and effort. The most respected individuals are often the quiet ones who lead by example. They don't talk about principles, they live them. They don't announce every good deed, they just do it. Over time, those actions speak louder than any speech or title. People remember the moments when someone stepped up without being asked, defended someone who couldn't defend themselves, or stayed humble despite success. Those moments define legacy more than any achievement list ever could. Respect is tested most in moments of pressure. When tempers flare, when failure hits, when pride is at stake. That's when character shows. The ones who stay composed, who listen before reacting, who stay grounded in their values even when it's uncomfortable, they earn respect that endures. Anyone can act decent when things go their way. It's what people do under strain that sets them apart. It's also important to remember that respect isn't one-sided. It's not just something given to those in authority. It moves both ways, up, down, and across. A team functions best when respect is mutual, when everyone recognizes the worth in others' contributions. The best leaders respect their teams as much as their teams respect them. They understand that strength doesn't come from control, but from cooperation. Over time, ranks fade, titles change, and reputations shift, but the respect earned through action remains. People might forget your words, your awards, or even your name, but they'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember your fairness, your honesty, your steadiness. That's the quiet power of respect. It lives on in the stories others tell about you when you're not in the room. And those stories aren't written by rank or position. They're written by the way you treated people when you had nothing to gain.